Hey guys, it's Maddie from Let's Eat Plants, and today I'm going to show you a couple different ways to use up your extra sage. So I know that during the Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays, sage is pretty common of an ingredient. I even bought some myself to make that oatmeal stuffing. But a lot of times I find that when you buy herbs at the grocery store, they give you so much more than you actually need, and I usually end up like wasting it all or not knowing what to do with it. So in the past, I have tried drying sage in the oven, which worked pretty well, but I actually didn't like the flavor of dried sage as much as the fresh sage. So today I want to try two different methods of storing sage for later use. So first, we are just going to take all the leaves off of the stems and of course rinse it. And the first recipe I want to try is a sage and garlic butter that I'm actually going to store in the freezer so that I can save it for a long time and use as needed. But first I will need to chop up all the sage pretty finely, as well as chop up some garlic. So this made about half a cup of sage total. And then I realized that wasn't nearly enough garlic, so I chopped up a few more. I'm just measuring out my butter to see how much I have, and it's just over 1 cup, so I'm actually going to use only a 1/4 cup of sage leaves for that amount and all of the garlic. Now, of course, I'm using a vegan butter. I'm actually using the Basil vegan sticks. They work pretty much the same as regular non-vegan stick butter, so I'm really happy with them, and I usually buy them because they're the least expensive. Now add in the sage leaves and all of that delicious garlic. Now I just simmered this for a little while until it got hot and seemed to be thoroughly infused, and then I decided to strain it so it would just be the pure butter, and this is the good stuff. Now this butter is just going to be stored in the freezer. If I was going to use it really quickly, I would store it in the fridge, but I know it will take us a long time to go through all of this butter, so I'm just going to store mine in the freezer so it will be good for at least a couple months. And with the remaining 1/4 cup of sage, I am just going to fill my silicone cups, add in just enough water to cover, and then freeze those as well. And then after a couple of hours, you can take them out of their silicone molds and just pop them into a jar or a Tupperware and store them in their frozen state. Now I've read that this works really well for fresh herbs. I haven't done it before, but I'm really excited to test it out. Supposedly you can freeze lots of fresh herbs like this, and then you don't have to store them in butter or oil or anything. You can just defrost it and use as you would fresh herbs, or just throw it into a soup or whatever kind of stock you need it for. And as you can see, our butter has hardened nicely as well, and it's still malleable enough, which means I can just take out a small portion as needed. And with all those leftover sage and garlic bits, I just made a quick macaroni pasta. Now I also posted on my Instagram to see if you guys had any really good ideas on how to use up your sage, and I got a lot of really creative answers, so I decided to do what anybody does when they need the answer to something: go on to YouTube and look for some other recipes. So I actually found some pretty cool recipes, and I just want to share those with you guys in case you're looking for a recipe to use up your sage with. So the first one actually comes from someone on my Instagram who suggested burning sage, which I've heard is very popular for like cleansing rooms and parts of your house. So I just found a YouTube video that shows you how to make your own sage bundle. Then I also started reading that sage can make a really good tea that's actually really healthy for you. And I came across this one from the YouTube channel SpiceMixes, and this looks really delicious. I think this is definitely something I would like to try out. And then of course I had to look up some vegan recipes to use up your sage. So the first one I came across is from Sweet Simple Vegan, and it is for a pumpkin gnocchi with garlic and sage butter sauce, which sounds delicious. I feel like sage and pumpkin are such a classic combination. I also found this delicious looking recipe from Hot for Food, which is a vegan gnudi with walnut and sage pesto. Like, oh my goodness, how delicious does this look? I also found this recipe from Avant Vegan, which is for a squash risotto with eggplant, bacon, and crispy sage. And Avant Vegan's recipes are always just so impressive looking. Like, I don't know if I could make this, but I definitely would like to try. And lastly, I came across a recipe from Mary's Test Kitchen for fennel and sage baked tofu, which I thought sounded like such an interesting combination. So essentially it's a bunch of herbs, and you just marinate your tofu and then bake it up into little cubes. And I feel like this is such a unique combination. I am so interested to see how this tastes. It definitely made me curious to try this recipe. So I hope you guys enjoyed this quick little video on how to use up your extra sage. If you have any leftover sage after preparing your holiday meals this year, I feel any of these recipes would be delicious, and or if you just want to store it, that works too. And with that, let's eat plants, and I will see you guys next time.